we bring in cross-country head coach Justin Decker, now joining us live on Trailblazer Weekly to talk about the success of the first two matches so far this season. Justin Decker, thanks so much for having us. Thanks so much for being on our show today.
Glad to be here. Love the show.
It's always good to have you on. And
good to know we have fans too.
Let's talk a little bit about. Let's just get kind of your early impressions of this team so far. Obviously, you had a very successful trip out to Sacramento State last weekend. Talk a little bit about just kind of your early impressions so far of both your men's and women's cross country teams.
Yeah, the big thing this year is just the overall depth of our teams. You know, we still do have one standout runner, I'd say, on each of our teams right now, which we've kind of had in the past, usually with runners like, well, Billie for a couple of years now, Skylar Story, Hunter Chamberlain, Rachel Young going way back. So you know, we have had some really good standout individuals in the past, but overall for our top 7 runners, this is by far the best we've ever had. You know, we have close to 20 runners on each team, and it's just full of good young runners and also returners that, you know, having big numbers like that work hard and push each other is just kind of contagious, where they help each other improve and work hard every day.
You go back 2 weeks ago to start the season. You went up to the BYU Autumn Classic. You finished 3rd there, both men and women. And you know, obviously last week you ran tremendously over and broke just all kinds of records. Just go back and talk a little bit about the BYU Autumn Classic, what you noticed there, and how you were able to get a 3rd place finish there, and then maybe just dive into a little bit about the run last week, breaking all those records.
Yeah, so you know, BYU, it's a fun one to go to just because we have so many runners from northern Utah, so get to go run our first race there, and a lot of their high school teams are there running the race at the same time, there to cheer them on, parents there to cheer them on. So and then just running against a team like BYU and then Weber State as well. But BYU, their men are ranked number 2 in the country in Division I, and their women I think are up to number 4 now. So you know, they're the top in the country for Division I. So to be able to get a race against that, obviously, you know, we're not really competitive racing against a team of that level, but it's still fun to run in that same race. And so our competition more in that race was Westminster, our conference rival. So we were able to beat both them and both men and women. So it was a good, successful first race. A lot of freshmen, that first collegiate race, but learning and did well, and then yeah, led into this past weekend.
Huge weekend in California last weekend as we chat with men's and women's cross country head coach Justin Decker, also coaches the women's track program in the spring. Just busy guy all over the place. But you go down to California, and you and I were talking kind of after the race too, and you knew that, hey, the conditions were ripe, I think, for a good race. Great weather. You're down closer to sea level, but they, you know, the men and women really go out and perform. At what point did you know? I mean, do you bring a list with you of your records so that you know when you see those times at the end, like, hey, we're on pace for that. Hey, you know, this could happen. I mean, at what point did you realize? Did you have to get back to the car and check it? At what point did you realize that so many records had fallen in that meet?
Yeah, you know, I've been here long enough. Pretty much have those times in my head of what those records are. But you know, they started off fast, and any time of the finish, you see those times and how fast they are. The first thing you're wondering is, you know, was the course a little short or something? You know, those times are really fast. But some of our runners run with GPS watches where it measures their distance as they're running. So I went up to a couple of them, like, you know, what'd you give the distance on that? And it wasn't a short course. And that would have been surprising anyways, because it's the national course, and they're going to make sure the national course is right on the distance. But yeah, it is those factors you just mentioned. Weather was great, overcast, and down at sea level, and it was a good, nice flat course on a golf course, no major hills, and just running against that high level of competition too also pushes the runners. And lastly, it's just, we have really fast runners this year, so all those factors put together made for the record-breaking times.
To recap, and we've mentioned this a couple of different times on the show, both teams broke their team records for the length of race that they ran. So the men broke the team 8K record. The women broke the team 6K record individually. Billie Hatch broke the women's team individual 6K record, and Kyler Miller broke the men's team 8K record. And of course, you and I talked after the race on Saturday, Justin, about that men's team, that really you average it about those top 5 runners for your men's team. Their average time combined were higher than the previous 8K records. The women ran a great race, but a phenomenal race run by the men's team. It's not just one person up ahead. It's, those top 5 runners really put in very competitive times, and times that, can be huge if they can duplicate those numbers come conference championship season.
Yeah, your team in cross country is only as good as your 5th fastest runner, and that's a huge strength of our team this year. We still do have a little bit of a gap there between our 1 and 2 runners, but 2 through 5, and even going 2 through 7 on both teams, are pretty tight, and not that big of a spread. So that's a huge strength for us.
Of course, and we can segue this into talking about both teams just a little bit. Maybe we'll start with the men's team. But Kyler Miller named RMAC Men's Cross Country Runner of the Week, something that hadn't happened before, at least as a member of the RMAC. And at least I don't remember. Maybe Hunter Chamberlain won 1 or 2 in the Pac West. But a great honor for him to be able to go out there and do that. And how nice is it to have a freshman come in and kind of be that, and you and I talked before the season that he would probably be that pace guy for this men's team that would be leading them. But big honor for him. And then how nice is it to have a freshman of all classes leading that men's team?
Yeah, he keeps surprising me every week. A lot of freshmen come in, they were really successful in high school, used to being in the front pack in races, and they come and start running their first college races and kind of expect it to be the same. So they go out longer distance in college and that they're not used to, and much higher level of competition. So they go out, too hard and can't maintain it in these races. So BYU, that's kind of what I thought he was doing and what's going to happen to him, like so many freshmen do, and kind of this last race in Sacramento as well. But he just surprised me in that he was able to start off fast with the kind of lead pack and able to maintain it through the whole race. So it's been amazing to see what he's doing, and sky's the limit. He's only got room to continue to progress since he's only a freshman right now, and yeah, it's exciting to see what's in store for him.
Chatting live with men's and women's cross country head coach Justin Decker here on Trailblazer Weekly as we continue to ask a little bit more about the men's team. Has a lot of young guys like you mentioned, Kyler Murray and Hunter and Kevin Kirk, a sophomore as well. But you also have a handful of good returners. Talk to me a little bit about just kind of what your returners have meant for some of these younger guys as you've kind of gotten your feet wet into the season.
Yeah, so several of them, like Ben Fish, he was our number 2 our first race, number 3 this weekend. He's been here since 2016 now, so actually had a kind of an injury redshirt last year, so he's only a junior year this year, even though it's his 4th year. But he and put Tyson McKeon in there too, as well as a couple others that have been in the program now for 3 or 4 years and kind of know what's expected. They've been teammates with guys like Hunter Chamberlain, know what it takes to be successful at this level and how hard you have to work, and kind of taking care of the little things every day. So yeah, that example that they set for the younger runners is a big help.
And of course, on the women's side, you are led by Billie Hatch, who is just continues to be tremendous for your team. Finished 10th place over there in Sacramento State, shattering her 6K time as far as her time here at Dixie State goes. And obviously, she's just been kind of your leader. Alyssa Herring has been really good for you as well over the years. Got to be good to have some of those returners as well, kind of leading your team, and good for Billie Hatch to get on the course, the national preview course, and surely for her have to be hopeful that hopefully she returns there towards the end of the season in that national race.
Yeah, for sure. All-American has kind of been the goal for her last year and this year. Cross country last year. She could have been there. It was just got to the national course in Pittsburgh, and it was a snow-covered course, muddy course that had been torn apart by the men's race right before the women's race. So she slipped a couple times and had probably her one bad race of the season. So didn't reach that All-American status in cross country. And then track, she was top 12 All-American. She was 13th at nationals. So she's been really close and at that level, but she's definitely on pace for it this year, so just got to make sure she's running her best race at the right times to make sure she gets to nationals and then runs well there. And that was a big reason, obviously why we went and ran in Sacramento so she could get to learn that course well, and hopefully this year don't have to worry about a snow-covered course in Sacramento as opposed to Pittsburgh.
Well, I tell you what, as we chat with men's and women's cross country head coach Justin Decker, you mentioned that track national meet that she went and ran at too. It was 2,000% humidity that night and just deathly hot. And we got to talk to the weatherman in some of these national locations and say, hey, give our runners some good weather to run in. Like you said, hopefully in Sacramento, if she makes it that national meet, she can meet some good weather. It's fitting that the record that she broke was set by your other All-American in the cross-country program. Really was, I would call it probably the pioneer of that women's program in Rachel Young. She's a member of the Dixie State Hall of Fame. I'm sure that's got to mean something special to Billie to know that record I'm breaking was set by someone who has really set the mark in women's cross-country for this Trailblazer program.
Yeah, and going back then, that was 2012, and that was at the national championship race when she ran that time. And at that time we thought that record might never be broken because it was such an amazing race for Rachel back then. She was 20-something at the national championship meet back then to earn All-American. I think they do top 45 for All-Americans in cross country at the national meet. But yeah, Billie is, we knew she was getting at that level, pretty close to Rachel, and beating that time is pretty impressive. And probably would have been the conference runner of the week as well, like Kyler, if it wasn't for Colorado Mines, who's ranked number 3 in the country, that was also running in Sacramento the same time as us. So I think Division II runners, this is one of the biggest Division II meets, national meets of the year. It's the Nationals preview meet, and I think Billie was 4th out of the Division II runners in that meet, 10th overall when you add in Division I runners and stuff. But just unfortunate, Colorado Mines is really good. I think top 3 in the country, and have some really amazing runners as well that edged her out.
It's just fun to see these teams competing with some of that top talent. Of course, you go to SUU to the annual Color Country Invitational October 12th, and then before it'll be here before we know it, going over to Grand Junction in Colorado Mesa, hosting the 2019 RMAC Championships in just a couple of weeks on October 26th. In the remaining time that we had here, Justin, though, I wanted to talk about just I know you guys, both teams are kind of running for a cause this year and missing. And I hate to put you on the spot here, but in missing one of those women's runners that we probably would have been talking about this year, and being one of those top returners is Erin Hearst, diagnosed with cancer. And maybe I can let you tell our viewers a little bit more about that, not with the team, but just talk about how she's inspiring your teams this year, and how your teams really are running for a cause this year.
Yeah, Erin was going to be a junior for us this year. Spring in the track season, I'd say she was obviously we had Billie, who number one, but for our distance runners, probably our second strongest in the spring. She went and ran the steeplechase and placed 10th at the RMAC championship, which I think was in the track events, the second best mark we had at the conference championship. So she started off the summer working really hard, motivated to come and have a really strong season. Is one of the leaders, returners on our team. Was going to be right in there, top 5, top 7 for us, having an impact. But just received the unfortunate news over the summer that she was diagnosed with cancer. But so she's definitely fighting a really tough battle. But if you know her, she is keeping a really amazingly positive attitude and determined to beat it. So very inspiring to me as well as the rest of our team. Kind of makes everything else seem so unimportant with what she's going through. But she sends video messages to our team before the race in Sacramento. She had sent a video message that we watched the morning before the race. Our team has bracelets and pins that they wear with her name on them. She was roommates with and kind of best friends with Billie Hatch. So, Billie, extra motivation for her to go and have a really strong season in honor of Erin. So yeah, we miss her, but just doing whatever we can to honor her and run for her.
Absolutely. It's incredible to see. It's been, as you go back and kind of even with some of the tragedy that the football team faced in the fall or then in spring and then through the summer and now this, been kind of a tough year for Dixie State athletics in that regard. And we wish you and your team all the best, but especially our thoughts and prayers are with Billie and with Erin and with her family. And we're kind of in that same cause and running for that cause. I know that BYU kind of honored her at that race. And did everybody wear pins that day, or did BYU just present you guys with some pins or whatever it was? What was it that BYU did?
Yeah, so
for your teams
in the women's race, they'd heard about Erin, so they had some girls on their team that had raced against Erin in high school, and they made these yellow ribbons that just pinned onto the uniform. So there are 4 teams there. They gave them to all the runners from all 4 teams to wear in the race, and then right at the starting line before the race started, gathered in a prayer. And one of their good runners that was competitors with Erin in high school kind of said a prayer for Erin with all the racers involved. So it was a really special experience.
Absolutely. Where, like I said, thoughts and prayers with her and her family and with you and your program as you continue to try to make this a very special season for her and for your program. And we appreciate you stopping by and talking with us. Just a heck of a weekend this last weekend, and we wish you the best up at SUU. And then in a couple weeks, then the races really, not that they don't count now, but then the races really start to count with conference championship and regionals, and hopefully, we'd love to see a team qualify for nationals as well. So we wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.